I used to be a huge lover of Bluebell ice cream. My husband and I would always look forward to trying the new flavors that would come out. And then I can remember laying around one night in 2015, reading the latest news and seeing a huge article about a recall within the entire brand with traces of listeria being found. I was devastated not only because I would never eat Bluebell again, but because I also couldn't believe a company with such a reputable, strong following would have something like this happen. Considering that I had originally tried this product because of customers I used to check out while working at a local store, I had always thought of Bluebell as a company that could be trusted without any concern of issues such as this. Let alone it being a deadly bacteria. I actually believed that because of this, the company would go belly up, be completely finished. You'd never see them on the shelves again. But based on the terrible results that the Bluebell manufacturing plants did receive in all 3 states during this recall, I was dead sure that I could only be seeing the end of another great company. Listeria has the possibility of becoming fatal, and of the 10 cases reported from January 2010 to January 2015, all 10 patients were hospitalized, and 3 of them even died. It is absolutely mind-blowing to me that something as simple as eating ice cream could have taken my life. I was out of sorts over the situation for days after reading the initial report, and I still keep up with what's going on within the company now. The first thing that really blew my mind about this was that the company had allowed the basic cleaning processes to be overlooked or conducted at a rate that wasn't accurate. This could mean that they weren't even doing it on a regular basis. They had obviously been neglecting it for some time. Because listeria is a bacteria that is able to be grown at refrigeration temperatures, killing such a bacteria would have been a task, and failure to comply with the strict cleaning policies could have only made this worse. This is the most likely reason that Bluebell decided to recall the entire line and comply with all state regulations implemented where the plants were located. Along with allowing testing and complying, they also agreed to better cleaning habits, better employee training, and the entire follow-up process. But most importantly, allowing voluntary testing in all of their plants and not producing until no traces of listeria were coming back in the test being conducted. Based on the 2 reports I have pulled during an inspection, an employee is clearly observed not following the procedures to avoid cross-contamination. After that initial report was released, Bluebell responded with how they chose to correct the issue and who took responsibility for that issue. While I'm not sure these particular issues are what have caused the contamination within the listeria, you can imagine how often this must happen to items that we consume every day. For me, this recall was more of a wake-up than anything. It made me realize how often I could be overlooking something that may be hurting my family. When companies are expected to cut hours and work around shortages, you're going to see things such as cleanliness really take a hit there and being able to follow those basic policies. And I would be willing to bet that there are often areas that are overlooked that could cause these contaminations to be happening more than we're well aware of. I believe that when hours are cut, you will see the cleaning and the ability to do everyday maintenance as one of the areas that will be cut most often. With that being said, I just want to let everyone take a moment and think that you can look up all these reports on the FDA.gov website for any location at any time. I just want to take a minute and show y'all some reports. The first is the Department of Health and Human Services report. And it's a professional report. And within this, it states the observation was the failure to manufacture food under conditions and controls necessary to minimize contamination. Specifically, during an inspection on 3/28/2012, an employee there's a redacted area as well, in the line was observed to take the shipping boxes from the pallet, open the boxes with the plastic liner saying Nutty Chocolate Premix, and empty it into the hopper. The employee then proceeded to sweep the remaining contents out of the bag into the feeder with his gloved hand, throw the bag in the trash, break down the box, and place it in the box stack. That activity was observed to be repetitive, and in between that, he was observed scratching his head, touching his cap, his waistband, and to resume his routine, including touching the premix without swapping gloves. To me, that was a big red flag. There was also a second observation that showed the edges of the buckets had not been cleaned properly or labeled properly. And the second document is the response that Bluebell issued in regards to that. And it says that on March 28, 2012, the FDA conducted an inspection of the facility in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. During the inspection, they reviewed records and did a walkthrough. She noted the following observation, and she speaks again of the observation I just talked about. They said their corrective action would be the employee would be corrected immediately, and they are to be placed and practiced in all production areas. The person observed the employee on 2 separate instances since the inspection, and none of these issues have happened. They strive to produce safe, quality products. They view it as an opportunity to improve, and they hope that this allows them to become better. That came straight from Jeff Martin, the quality control manager at Bluebell Creameries, and you can see that there. With all that being said and those papers being reviewed, I think about how often are we opening a window for cross-contamination within our own homes? How often do we touch something and then touch raw meat before we ever even think about washing our hands, or even dog food to our kids' food? For those 10 people that were hospitalized, it never crossed their mind that eating a sweet treat could kill them. And let's be honest, if it can happen in ice cream, can you imagine how careful you must be to keep your meat safe? This entire recall allowed me to really focus on cleanliness and making sure that I'm doing all I can to keep my family safe. I've spent quite some time looking at particular reports the FDA provides, and it seems that all plants producing Bluebell ice cream have received regular visits and reports. And I have a really hard time understanding how the FDA wasn't able to catch the traces of Listeria earlier, because I started reading the reports back in 2009 and there was issues. I really feel unsure about who should accept responsibility for that and why there was cases back to 2010, but the recall wasn't issued until 2015. I hope that this won't happen anymore and we see the FDA really step up. And I believe that the issue could have probably been avoided if the company had just ensured their basic cleanliness and the procedures were followed. If the employees, though, are not properly trained, you can ensure that cleanliness is not a top priority. For me, what's most important is to make sure that it won't happen again, not only with Bluebell, but with any company that produces food. Listeria is basically just a food poisoning. Many people have probably been affected and just let it pass by thinking it was the stomach flu or something. They could be suffering lifelong effects from that. For me, the most important thing is that we research and focus on what we are putting into our bodies and the bodies of the people we care about. As long as we allow companies to improperly train and allow their employees the time to do what needs to be done, we can count on seeing these things happening. We also need to take the time to check the reports that FDA provides to ensure that any issues happening within the company are being responded to, and follow-up show that it won't continue to happen. I really pulled a lot of my links off of FDA.gov and Money and CNN.com with a lot of my statistics.